Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Saturday Night Podcast. You're joining us for our championship draw reaction, and joining us to react to the championship is Paddy Savage and Niall McCoy. And there's a couple of interesting draws across the three championships. Some interesting ties coming up. And I suppose, man, just before we get into that, I want to congratulate Kieran McGeeney, who's been ratified for another year in charge of the Armagh senior team, and that'll be his 8th year over them. And hopefully they can push on from a progressive 2020. Man, we're just going to talk about the championship the way it was drawn out. So the junior championship was first, then intermediate, and then the senior. So we'll go through the championship draw here, the junior championship draw here. It's Earl against Clady, with the winners playing Crossmaglen. Thomas Davis versus Dorsey, with the winners taking on O'Hanlon's. Derrynoosa and Newtown, with the winners meeting Cleve. And the winners of Blake and Mullabrack take on the Summon. So I think, Paddy, to start off with the junior, the 4 first round games, it's hard to see one that we're going to get excited about. I think we have four big favourites there, and the likelihood is that they're going to get through that first round.
Yeah, though, I mean, obviously, I know the teams themselves will get they'll be getting excited about them, surely. But yeah, look, I suppose if we're at the stage now, we've got past the split in the junior league, Sean, and of the 4 sort of first round ties that we'll have, as I look at it here, they're basically all, in fact, I'm pretty certain they are all junior A versus junior B. So look, that wasn't seeded. That's just the way the draw came out. And look, realistically, all the junior A teams are going to go in as strong favourites against the junior B sides. That's just the reality of it. And in fact, O'Hanlon's, who are leading there down in junior B, probably won a good few games. They actually one of the sides that got the bye. So it's sort of that next batch of teams, your Newtown, Clady, Crenchago and Mullabrack, who have that are drawn against those junior A teams. So look, that's a big challenge. But things are always different when it comes to championship. And look, those sides will be really looking forward to to giving it a rattle. They've absolutely nothing to lose. The likes of Newtown had the experience of getting to semi-final last year, and they beat Thomas Davis, and Thomas Davis not that long since they were in a county final, so they'll go in, they'll give it their best, and it'll be just interesting to see what results come out of it.
What did you think of the junior championship draw? Was there any first round ties catching your eye, or are you in agreement with me and Paddy? It's going to be very hard for the underdogs to come through any of them first round ties.
Yeah, I think Paddy touched on all the points there. Like, I think going by the table, possibly Thomas Davis and Dorsey are probably the 2 closest teams. So maybe there you might get a bit of a game, but the other 3 do look very one-sided. Which, as Paddy alluded to, I was going to say it myself. Like, you think about it, Thomas Davis were in a final a couple of years ago. St Michael's were a senior team a decade ago, got to the semi-final last year. Now, it didn't go well for them, obviously, but you never know. They probably didn't expect to get to the semi last year, so who knows? I just make a point on Thomas Davis there. I was down at their new resource centre last week. It's absolutely unbelievable. It's an incredible building they put together there, and they're obviously a club that are got their head screwed on. It's going to be a club in the race. They have went back a bit since, obviously, they got to the final, but I've no doubt that in the coming years they will become a big team. But yeah, I think Paddy hit the nail on the head there. There's 4 very one-sided looking on paper, but in championship there's always a price. If I was going to guess one where there could be a really competitive game, maybe it's the Dorsey match.
And I think the fact that it's championship maybe adds a wee bit to it, that when you're the underdog, you get one crack at it, and it maybe helps a wee bit to motivate you, but it also maybe keeps the favourites on their toes. They know if they have an off day, they could be caught, and that's their championship campaign over. I suppose, as we've touched on, all the big teams have missed each other. The likelihood is that we're going to see Crossmaglen taking on our Rogue in the quarter-final, and now that's going to be the big one. Both teams are really pushing for promotion. Crossmaglen have several of their ex-senior men. They've the likes of Rico Kelly, Colin O'Connor, Johnny McKeever, the experienced Paul McKeown is down there playing junior football as well. So Crossmaglen are a team that will be a lot of people's favourites to win this championship. On Arrow, they've certainly been pushing. They were an intermediate team in 2019, so that's probably the tie of the round. If Arrow can get over Clady, that's going to be the big quarter-final clash.
Yeah, you're talking about two potential real contenders meeting in the last 8. As you say, you have to get over Clady. I think it's one of the big things when they see the championship programme coming out every year, just flicking to the cross seconds team sheet to see who's actually involved, because this last couple of years, I think Dave McKenna was playing with them there a couple of years ago and different things. I think Johnny Hanratty might have had a season with them. They've had some really big names, and as you said, a lot of experience there too. I suppose Clevie to an extent as well. I seen Ramey Taggart in the gym the other day, and he's like an animal, and Ramey led the line for Clevie seniors there for years, but he's in with the seconds now, and Clevie are a bit like that. They've got a good few experienced players have dropped down too, but yeah, Cross Oak is a likely quarter-final, and whoever comes through that will feel that they'll go all the way. Oak, as you touched on there, played at a higher level quite a bit recently, so you're looking at that match and you're thinking there's a real potential winner, whoever comes out of that quarter-final.
And Clevie, I suppose the likes of Ramey Taggart coming down to play junior, and they have such a good underage system as well. I know that a couple of county minors there for a couple of years, and they get playing junior football as well. So I suppose Clevie could be one to watch, but coming out of that, they're going to meet either Derrynoose or Newtown. And Paddy, I think we're going to expect Derrynoose to get past Newtown and then beat Clevie as well. I think Derrynoose are likely to get into the semi-finals.
Yeah, well, look, Clevie haven't been going well in the league, but just the thing you have to remember when it comes to those seconds teams, Sean, is that the eligibility rules are different. So you have to name a certain number of players when it comes to the league. But in terms of the championship, if there's anybody there that didn't play a championship for Clevie seniors in 2020, they're eligible to play for the junior team. So it can be sometimes hard just to judge those seconds teams based on league form. But look, Derrynoose have been thereabouts for a good while, and I mean they've certainly in McNally they've one of the best forwards in the county nearly at any level. So they'd probably in that week quarter they'd probably be slight favourites, but it'll just be interesting to see how Clevie go.
And now I'm interested in O'Hanlon's. They're top of Junior B, and there is probably a big gap in junior football. You have the top 3 or 4 teams, and everybody else is below that. But if O'Hanlon's can maybe mount a challenge in the championship, they've got a favourable draw. I think that they'd be happy enough with their draw. They're meeting either Dorsey or Corinchigo. If they can win that division, that Junior B division, it sets them up well for a crack at either Corinchigo or Dorsey.
Yeah, you said it. They're probably sitting at the draw. They're not taking anything for granted, but saying, listen, as terms if we're into the quarters, and that's probably a decent quarter-final draw. Tough, obviously, but whoever comes out of that, they'll feel they have a real chance. And O'Hanlon's seem to be improving. You've probably seen a bit more of them in recent times than me used to, but just even from a results point of view, you think back a few years ago and they were struggling to get any sort of points on the board, and going really, really well. Haven't always had the biggest pick, but a big community club, reaching out to all ends of the community down there, and something seems to be going right because they're going well, and they'll bring that league confidence into the championship. They can sit back and watch a quarter final and hope the two teams take lumps out of each other and then pick up the pieces after.
The final one is Billick and Mullabrack, and they're taking on let someone take on the winners of Billick or Mullabrack. Again, Paddy, it's a bit like the Derrynoose one. We're going to expect Billick to come through this. Billick are one of the challengers. We've seen them reach the final last year, bring Forkhill their replay on Dexter time, and they're going to want to really push on this year and have a big say in that championship.
Yeah, definitely. Look, Billick in that quarter, Billick will be the favourites. There's no point in suggesting any different, but Billick were, there's those two sort of epic games, and there'll be a lot of hurt, I'm sure, over the winter in Billick that they just didn't get over the line, and they were so close, extra time in a replay. But Lissommon are up there in Junior A as well, so they're playing against those better teams. Haven't been doing just as well as Billick, but they'll be hopeful, no doubt. But yeah, look, Blake would look the strongest team in that quarter before balls kicked.
We'll move on to the Intermediate Championship. There's a lot of even draws here in this Intermediate Championship, but we'll just go through the games first. It's going to be Carrickcruppen against College Land, with the winners meeting the winners of Katy and Wolf Tones. Cullaville take on Shane O'Neill's, with the winners meeting Middletown or St Paul's. It's Clonmore and Sarsfields, with the winners against Whitecross and Ballyhagan. And in the final one, it's Blackwater Town versus Forkhill, and the winner meets Taylornogue and Tullysarn. Now, just looking at that Intermediate Championship draw, what's the one jumping out to you immediately?
Well, I think what's interesting there, I could have this wrong, but I think that top bracket of Carrickcruppen, College Land, Katy and Tones is the 4 teams at the top of Intermediate B at the moment. So, you know, at that sort of bracket, I know there's a lot of optimism around Carrickcruppen, even before the draw, that they could go on a real run this year in the championship. That'll only be enhanced after the draw tonight. It's against teams that beaten this year. They've beaten a lot of teams in that Intermediate B by a lot of points. Carrickcruppen definitely have a confidence there, and they'll be looking at that thinking that a semi-final at least is achievable. It's a very young team. I watched Carrickcruppen a couple of years ago when they basically ruled out the team and gave their youngsters, just put in a young team, and they just were taking beaten after beaten after beaten, and they just stuck with it, kept patient, and now they're sort of getting the results out of that. So fair play. College Land, you know, we seen them at junior a couple of years ago, what they did. Katy, you know, you always know what you're going to get with Katy. A lot of the time it depends on how the hurlers are going. And Wolf Tones probably a sort of mixed season for them. They probably struggled there a couple of matches there where you probably thought they would have been better, lost down in Camlow. I know they're looking to get the win there and it didn't work out. I like that bracket. I know it's not the big teams in the draw, but I'm very interested to see who will come out of that in the semi-final. Just, you know, on the other ones are your usual Shane O'Neill's, Cullaville, good set on that derby. Shane O'Neill's, I think we see it every year that on paper they've an outstanding team. They really should be going well. Cullaville are never easy. Tullysarn, excellent team, really, really excellent team. I suppose I want to see how Forkhill get on. They seem to have retained most of the boys from last year. They have a boy in from St Bride's and Loud. I think he's going well as well. So you know, they're probably happy enough with the draw too. Whitecross struggling a bit at the moment. A couple of big tankings there recently up against Ballyhagan. Ballyhagan, I think, beat Whitecross in the championship last year too. The day of the big heat, or the weekend. It was a very warm August weekend, if I remember correctly. So yeah, a lot of, you know, we talk about the junior being the quarterfinals looking one-sided. The intermediate certainly isn't. There's a lot of matches there where you're sort of looking at them and thinking there could be a lot of really good games there.
Well, the team I want to talk about, Paddy, is Shane O'Neill's. And just looking through the last couple of seasons, they've been beaten by the eventual winners in the last few seasons. It was Clans in the first round last year. Of course, they reached the final the year before and Grange beat them. And I think it was St Peter's beat them in the quarter-final in 2018. So the Shanes are knocking at the door this last couple of years. They take on Cullaville, who haven't been going well in the league, but I think they have 2 or 3 games in hand at the minute, so they can certainly push up out of the relegation zone of 2B. That's an interesting tie, Paddy, with the winners taking on either Middletown or St Paul's.
Yeah, I think that's probably the one stood out to me, to be honest, because Cullaville, you know, they were a senior team, you know, back in 2019. Okay, that then got relegated, but they're, you know, I would have thought when it comes to championship, okay, even though they haven't doing wonderful in the league, they've actually only played 9 games. But that's certainly last year when it came to championship. Now they lost their first round game, but they were very competitive when there wasn't a whole pile expected of them, to be honest. So look, I think Cullaville want to put it up to Shane O'Neill's. Look, in terms of Shane O'Neill's, you know, they probably are the biggest story in inverted commas going into that intermediate championship. We sort of all know what happened in that intermediate final against Grange. They lost just in the last couple of minutes, and they were very, very aggrieved, shall we say, at the way that game went. But look, you know, Grange finished the stronger, and you know, Grange won the game. Shane's come out against Clonagale, and you know, probably had a big opportunity there, because if you remember back to that match, you know, Stephen Campbell was a huge injury doubt going into it, so they had that chance against Clonagale. Stefan, he done well enough in the game, but like he definitely wasn't himself. So Shane's had that chance, but again, just last sort of injury time. So they just lost the game. Clan's got them a couple of scores. So I suppose, look, it's from their perspective, it's how have they reacted to that as a team? Of those are those defeats going to have gotten to them, or are they just motivating them more for this year? But yeah, like if they're going to get to another semi-final, they're going to have to beat Colville. That's definitely a banana skin, and then potentially you'd expect it to be playing the finalists from last year, St. Paul's. So they definitely have to do it the hard way again.
Yeah, and Niall, you touched on it there that you were interested in Farkhill. I think Farkhill will be happy enough with the draw. No disrespect on Portmore, but they're in a relegation. They're hoping to survive relegation, and it's nearly this time next year we could have Farkhill in the Intermediate League and Blackwater Town in the Junior. So Farkhill's probably happy enough with that, but know that it is still a step up.
Yeah. Listen, it's probably one of the better draws they could have get. No point saying other. I believe Stephen Sheridan's back playing with them there recently too. As far as I know, he made his return from injury, which I thought he was out for longer, but apparently he's been playing and they've been putting up good scores. Jamar Hall, he stood out a mile at junior level. He's probably still going to stand out a mile at intermediate level as well. Ian don't have the massive pick, don't have the biggest pick in the world, nor do Portmore, but Cork will be very happy at that draw. Feel they can win that draw. They have played senior championship in recent years. They have played intermediate championship. Basically the whole squad, or a good portion of that squad, have played senior championship. So they're not going to be fazed by intermediate either. So yeah, listen, I think I would fancy them come through that. Yeah, I think so. And then I think they run into probably Tullysarn, which will be a different kettle of fish. But it'll be very interesting to see how Fork will go. They're definitely going well. They have moved between the divisions, but they got that junior championship last year. It was a big relief for them. Having just get that silverware there, and I suppose now I wouldn't say a bonus territory. They're ambitious. Guys feel they should be an intermediate team at a minimum now. So let's see how to get on.
It's going to be interesting, this Whitecross against Ballyhagan game. I was at that game last year where Ballyhagan managed to turn them over. James McCormick was unbelievable from, if my memory serves me right, I think he scored 2-5. Whitecross just didn't get to the pitch of the game. Paddy, you'd imagine that they're not going to have to fight much for motivation. They're going to be pumped up going into that game. And that group there of Whitecross and Ballyhagan meeting the winner of Clonmore and Sarsfields, you have the potential to get a couple of crackers out of that.
Yeah, definitely. Look, but you could say that about the whole intermediate championship. Like the one, if you think back there, the analysis we're doing of Junior A, and sorry, the Junior Championship, you are talking sort of Junior A versus Junior B, and very much seeing two groupings there. The intermediate is the one championship where I don't think you can really divide the teams just sort of as neatly by the by the league by the league positions and the league grades, because generally you're at teams are more at the one level, and you do see surprise teams ending up in championship finals and winning championships. So yeah, look, that's those could be really, really interesting ties. Look, Sarsfields are pushing and hoping to go on and win the league and get back up to senior football. So they'll realistically, I think they'd be the favourites to come through and get to the semi-final there. But yeah, look, definitely in the intermediate championship, whatever predictions you're making now or in the week before, you're expecting a reasonable proportion to be turned over, because you do just get that unpredictability.
Yeah, it's an exciting championship and look forward to covering it when the championship kicks off. We'll move on to the senior men. Plenty to talk about here. Some big ties. We'll just run through it here first. With Clonagale taking on Crossmaglen in the first round, with the winner playing Madden, and whoever comes through them two games will meet either Cleaver or Allochmore in the quarter-final. With Mahary and the Harps, a repeat of the 2017 championship final, and the winner takes on Grange or Clonerne. St Peters and the Oaks meet the winners of Ballymacnab and Greenmore in the quarter-final, and it's Drummondhee and Silverbridge meeting the winners of Mullabon and Collyhanna. So I suppose now immediately there's two big games jump out. It's that Mahary and Harps game, as well as the local rivalry of Ballymacnab and Greenmore. Were they the first two jumped out at you?
Yeah, those two and Clans and Cross for the history. You know, welcome back to senior football, Clans. You know, just those three for me are the three really interesting ones. Like, but you touched on Mahary and Harps. You know, Mahary are just an excellent side. Like, I've seen Mahary and Harps both in recent weeks, both very impressive. Mahary are incredibly efficient. Harps are in a very good place at the moment too. This is going to be a really good moment. Joe McElroy is playing super football. I really think we need to find a way to get him back in the county squad, because he's just he's an immense talent. You know, that's going to be a cracking match. Yeah, I would still fancy Mahary, because I think Mahary are still, you know, the top team probably in Armagh, with Cross probably level with them. But really good game. Harps have really picked it up in recent weeks. Lost to Clevie there, but I think they missed an easy chance to draw at the end, so that would have extended their unbeaten run. Nab Greenmore, listen, it takes care of itself there. Two clubs that love the rivalry between each other. It's feisty. It's exactly what you want in a derby match. It's always fairly competitive. Greenmore have had a good couple of years now. They're going really well, second in the league at the moment as well. So that sort of match. Nab aren't going particularly well. It's probably a bit of a role reversal than what we usually see when they meet in the championship, but when Jack and Rory Grugan and Ryan Kennedy come back in the Ballymacnab, it'll be a completely different proposition.
And that Mahary and Harps game, the winner of it takes on Grange and Clonerne. And I think that's an interesting one, Paddy. Two 1B clubs. Grange, I suppose they've been hampered by the injury of Ethan Rafferty. He tore his cruciate, of course, and he's back on the recovery road. Clonerne, something similar with Ryan Owens. He had a bad knee injury, so both teams are missing key men, but that should still be an interesting tie.
Oh, well, surely, you know, sure. I mean, Grange were very close last year, weren't they, to knocking Clevie out, who went on and competed really well, could easily have been in the county final, you know. Remember that game, I think, was that Saturday evening that Niall was talking about, really warm, you know, it was on the same time as the Harps Drummondhee game in Abbey Park. So look, I think Clonerne will have felt probably last year that the left an opportunity to get the county final behind them. That they were capable. The chances of beating Mahary in that game, the game that went to extra time. So they've got a big squad. There's a big area there. They've got a lot of players coming through. And look, they'll go in favourites, but look, Grange are very useful outfit, very well managed outfit, organised. And as I say, they came very close to taking out Clevie last year. And probably, Clevie and Clonerne I always think are sort of two similar clubs, with an awful lot of resources, big picks, lots of two common teams in Armagh. So look, Grange will probably feel that there's been nothing really between the two teams in the league so far. Clonerne just a couple of points ahead because they've played the two extra games. So yeah, Clonerne go in favourites, but not really strong favourites.
And I suppose it's the same with St Peters and Pearse Oaks. Now they meet the winners of Greenmore or Ballymacnab. So the Oaks would obviously be favourites going into that game, having been in 1A for a couple of years now. St Peters, they're second from bottom in 1B, but they've got a couple of wins under their belts now, and they're trying their best to stay in the senior championship.
Yeah, and I suppose Oaks having a management change there mid-season too. You never really know how they're going to react to that either. It's a complete free ball there for St Peters. Like, no one's going to really, not that anyone expects them to get chinned in or anything, but they'll be going in as underdogs for everyone. So listen, they can just go and give it a shot and see it happens. As you say, they're starting to get a wee bit of steam there, and a lot of championship football's momentum and just getting a couple of wins and having a confident camp, and that can. I always say in Armagh, if you get over that first round in Armagh, you can really go as far as you want. I just think a lot of teams struggle to get that first win. Paddy mentioned our Grange taking Cleavey the extra time. If they get over the line there, who knows how far they can go. Clonard, the same with Mary. They really could have won that match. I think it was a real dirty night, but they really could have won that game. You win that, and all of a sudden you're away too. So, yeah, listen, it's a free hit for St. Peter's. Oaks will be fancied there, and rightly so. But go and see what happens.
I suppose we've talked about Cleavey a couple of times there. They're taking on Allochmore, and I think that's going to be very one-sided as well. There's no doubt about it. Cleavey are going to be the big favourites going into that game. Paddy, we were impressed with Cleavey last year, and rightly so. They pushed Crossmaglen to the very, very end, and had a half-goal chance at the end that if they had got it, they'd have reached the senior final. Cleavey are probably a team I'm a wee bit excited about. They have a lot of youth coming through. They have a couple of county men there, the likes of Kieran O'Hanlon, obviously Shane McGill, Conor O'Neill, Keelan McConville. They're a side on the rise, and you would imagine that they'll have too much for Allochmore.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're involved in Cleavey, at the start of this season, at the start of the championship, you're looking at trying to get their county final. Realistically, you're looking at trying to take a step forward. They're a club. They're a huge, big club. Massive resources there. Massive population area. Growing population there. Sort of heading out in Uri down the Dublin Road. And look, Cleavey should be doing well. They should be one of the top teams in Armagh. And yeah, look, Allochmore had absolute credit to them. That team that they've had for the last 5-6 years, they're an absolute credit to club football in Armagh. That what every small club should aspire to be. To be honest, how well they've done. That they've got up. They won their junior championship. They got up to senior football, and they stayed there. And look, it's maybe particularly given that they missed the Mickey Ewer lads badly in the first part of this league season last year, and they're going to be slipping back to intermediate now. But look, they made their mark on senior football, and I'm not gonna surprise anybody by saying that I necessarily think they're going to beat Cleavey, but they'll go out on their shield, and they're a proud team. They've represented themselves exceptionally well for a number of seasons, and I expect that they'll do so again against Cleavey before what looks like a likely move down to intermediate for next season.
And the winners of that, as we say, we expected to be Cleavey. They're going to take on either Crossmaglen, Clonagale, or Madden. And that Clonagale and Crossmaglen one, you said it's an olden days one. It's two of the big teams, traditional big teams in the county taking on each other. Clonagale obviously up from last year. That's their first senior championship game since 2012. And it's such a game to be thrown into for the first game in, 9 years?
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of history between the fixture. Can't remember the year. I think it might have been 2006 was possibly the last time they met in the county final. But Clans have obviously went in a different direction from then. Took so long to get back up. Came back up. They're a very strong team coming up, but they're still at the moment 2 divisions below Cross. It's not going to be a match they're probably going to have any chance of winning. Cross are still probably either first or second in the county, whatever way you want to arrange Cross and Mahry. Those two are clear the rest. I don't think there's any argument with that. I think Cross will come through that. I think they'll get it tough. I think Madden will also give Cross give it their fill of it. Madden are a big physical team. As a Drummond team man, I can attest to that in the championship. A couple of times they just bullied us out of it, to be honest with you. So it's a quarterfinal route. You'd expect Cross to come out relatively comfortable, but they should get a fair few challenges from both those teams. I don't think they're going to get it easy, is what I'm trying to say, but it would be a humongous shock if Cross don't beat both those sides.
And for that Madden one, I'll just stay with you. Like, the likelihood is, of course, they're going to be taking on Crossmaglen. Like, Madden have a habit of beating a big team. They beat Ballymacnab last year. They beat Mahary the year before in the group stages. They put it up to Cross, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago at home in the round robin championship, and Cross only beat them by a point. Madden won't be favourites going into the game, of course, but they won't be afraid of Crossmaglen. They will feel that they can push on from last season. They're probably disappointed they didn't reach the semi-final last year, and they'll be hoping to prove something again this year.
Yeah, the one thing about Madden is, they don't care. Like, they certainly don't have an inferiority complex, and they take sort of, I suppose, they take pleasure in beating, favourites or label favourites, and again, I go back to the matches where we went in as favourites against them, and, they just took pleasure in getting the better of us, and threw us about the place. They'll be licking their lips playing Cross. Like, they're not going to be sitting thinking, oh, it's Cross, we're doomed here. They'll be absolutely dying for it. If they can get Niall Grimley into a bit of form before the match, that would be some battle, wouldn't it? Seeing Niall Grimley coming up against maybe Oisin O'Neill or Rian O'Neill, and that'd be a fantastic thing to watch. But again, they're such a big side. I've seen them quite a bit recently. I've seen them quite a bit over the years. They're really physical. They can move the ball well. A team that, when they're playing well, they're extremely dangerous. And if the Cross do come through Clans as we'd expect, they'll not get easy over Madden. Again, I just can't see Madden getting the better of Cross if it is them, but it'll not be easy. It'll not be easy. Stephen Kiernan will know that. He'll know exactly what Madden will bring to it. Big physical, they'll try and throw the weight around. But then here, listen, in a few months, Clans could make us all look like idiots.
Yeah, definitely Clans. I don't want to be writing them off just yet, before ball's even kicked. We've 2 games left to discuss. That's Drummond taking on Silverbridge, with the winner meeting Mullabone or Cullyhanna. And Paddy, I'll not ask you to comment on your own club. So I'll throw you Drummond and Silverbridge. Again, Silverbridge, when football recommenced this year, looked like they were going to push on and get promotion. They've sort of fallen back a bit now, while Drummond, they're still top of the league. I'm not convinced they're going to win the league. It looked like at the end of last year that they were going to push on and win the league. Again, like a lot of these games, that's going to be a hard one to call. I think Drummond will go in favourites, but Silverbridge have shown in the past that they can turn it on.
Yeah, I think that's a fair enough analysis of it, Sean. Look, Drummond are sitting there top of Senior League A, so yeah, you'd expect them to go in favourites. Look, I think Silverbridge they'll go in, being really hopeful that they can cause a bit of a mini upset. So yeah, no, I think that's fair enough, the way you've described that one. Definitely, Silverbridge they'll be wanting to make their mark in the senior championship. They've had maybe a few difficult enough draws in the last few years that they've been back. That's they'll want to put it up to Drummond, no doubt about it.
And then that final one now, the winners of that meet Mullabone on Cullyhanna. I think that's a really interesting game. Cullyhanna obviously have their county men back now, McQuillan, Duffy, and I think they're still waiting on Aidan Nugent. He's not quite there yet. Mullabone, they had a great win at the weekend. They beat Madden, and they're trying to push up through the ranks in the 1B and get out of that relegation zone. Probably 2 evenly matched teams as we're speaking at the minute, so that's going to be a really interesting one.
Yeah, I think that whole bracket, that South Armagh bracket's really evenly matched, to be honest with you. As you touched on there, Drummond, listen, anyone that's seen them the last couple of weeks know they're riddled with injuries, the key men, and they're not the team they were last year. They don't have that depth. So Silverbridge, former Drummond manager in charge, Kevin Franklin, will be licking his lips. Mullabone, Cullyhanna, again, Mullabone are probably like Cullyhanna a couple of years ago. They've had a couple of really outstanding under 21 teams in recent years. A lot of good young players coming through. That's a real eye-catching quarter-final bracket there. Mullabone, Cullyhanna, Drummond and Silverbridge, because you just know you can throw out any cliche you want here, because all 4 of them will be sitting thinking they can get through to the semis out of that. Cullyhanna's not going to be scared of any of those 3. Likewise, the other 3 aren't going to be scared of the other. They're 2 hard games to pick. Mullabone are doing something very right. Peter McDonald's had a big influence there. Neil Smith and different people they put a lot of work in there this recent years. It took them a long time to get back to senior. I think they went down. I think it was possibly 2010 they went down. And it took a couple of years to come back up. But they've come up as a really strong team with a very young team full of running. Owen McDonald, I think, was absolutely flying for Armagh this year in training by all reports. Good forwards. Cullyhanna, listen, Cullyhanna are a championship team. I say this every year. Cullyhanna could be going bad in the league, but you can always depend on Cullyhanna to turn up in the championship. That's one thing that they have in their armour. They're a good championship team, and no matter how they're going into a game, they always seem to show up, to have that wee sort of knack of showing up in the championship. So, yeah, listen, 2 hard games to call that probably you're calling a lot closer when you see who's in and who's out in terms of players.
Yeah, of course, it's been very hard to preview any of the games here, as we're still maybe 6 or 8 weeks away from them actually taking place. And of course, we look forward to them games closer to the time with podcasts, articles, and match reports. So, man, thanks very much. And just to finish up, I want to wish Stormont Miners the best of luck on Friday night there in the Ulster semi-final against Donegal, and the Armagh Camogues take on Wexford in their round 3 tie of the All-Ireland series. So thanks very much, man, for coming on and giving us your reaction to the championship draw this season.